Hi Muses! Welcome to day one of Become a Money Making Muse. Today we're going to be covering the one thing, the most important thing, the thing that I will always check with clients or my muses, or just anytime I am talking to someone and sharing advice about what to do to become either a creative, or in this series about finally stepping up to that next chapter of offering your work to the world. This is the one thing that you need to have, the one thing that you need to practice, and the work that we'll be doing with my one-on-one clients, because this is all about first five. It will be making sure we work out the tools that you're going to need in order for you to practice this one thing. Now, make sure if you are watching live that you always, in all my videos, I always say, please comment below #YayLive so that I know that you're on, and also so that you take that tiny little step to fully engage and be present to this series, to this video, because I know that when you make that effort, you not only just for me, and it boosts these videos and it helps it be seen by more people, but for yourself. Because when you come to these things, I hope you're here to learn, you're here to be open to get any insight and wisdom that I share with you. And also for you to fully do that, you have to fully step into it and be present. And just that little step tells your mind, both conscious and subconscious, that you are here and you want to participate and you want to fully engage, and that you are available for the insight and the learnings. Wow, my background is like fully colorful today. And for those of you watching the replay, just fast forward until you see me give the 2 thumbs up, then you know that we will get into it. But right now I gotta do the logistics of sending out links and post it in all the places, because that's what you have to do. Yeah, and welcome to be here. If you are here, make sure you write down below, even if you're watching the replay, still comment #YayReplay, so that I know that you're here and that you as well are joining in and fully engaging. And tell me where you're at, where you're watching this from, what you're doing right now, and where you are in your creative journey. What is your story like? What is it that you're hoping to learn? Super excited, lots of that kind of emoji. And let me just check all the logistics and send out the links. Thank you for being here. All right, let's see where we are. Copy this link. We're here, we're live. Send that email out. Oops. We totally would discuss this with my one-on-one clients. If you're going to be doing live streams, there'll be a special bonus for first 5 clients who sign up for first 5, my one-on-one private mentoring, which I will talk more about at the end of this video. Send that email across. Make sure you say hi. Okay. All right. Let me grab my notes. Welcome. I've got my notes. All right, if you're watching the replay, this is the spot. You got your 2 thumbs up. We're going to be starting now. Okay. Welcome. Become a money making muse. What does that mean? I am talking to you if you are a creative, you have creative work that you want to do, whether you're a painter like me. That's the one in progress. This one's almost finished. It's just a few niggly bits. Or whether it is jewelry or some sort of creative work, or it's a creative service like illustration or design work. I was a designer in a past life, so I know what it takes to work with a client and really put yourself out there, and all the logistics of that. And so I'm one of those people who is both creative, and I love creativity, and I talk about this all the time. But I've learned And I've discovered I really love the entrepreneurial business mind of things, the strategic mindset, as well as the creative flow and being present and connection and all of those things, and having that balance. I love and thrive on that, and which is why I do my paintings, but I'm also sharing all my wisdom and insight, because I feel like I did not go through what I went through without sharing it, and to learn something so that I can help those behind me who are still just starting, who aren't quite where I'm at in the journey. But you don't have to wait until you are 100% perfect and ready. And I want to model that and be a lighthouse for you if you feel like that, because I know what it feels like to look at people who feel like they're a million steps ahead of you and you don't even know how you can get there. What I've learned is to find the people who are a few steps ahead and they still understand and remember what it was like, the struggles and the fears and the freaking out and the overwhelm of how exciting but also scary at this new thought of changing and learning and offering your art to the world is a whole different thing. When you're offering it to yourself, when you're just creating and finding your creativity, it is joyous. It is about connection to yourself only and to the divine. It is about creating something that is just for you, for self-expression, for exploring your creative voice, for all the things that you do when you do your creative work just for yourself. But when you step up to... When I say step up, I don't mean it's better than doing it for yourself. Absolutely. If that is just what you want and that's your ambition, absolutely, that's your joy, that's your calling. Not everyone is called to create work for the world, to sell it for money, because that is a whole different creation in itself. When you start offering it to the world, you're no longer just creating your own art and the work that you're creating, whether it's a painting or jewelry or a logo for a company. You're actually creating a business, and a business, as I found over my almost a decade of being online and doing all this work, and also in my years as being a designer in-house in a corporate environment, I know that there is something about creating it in a business, and a business is another kind of art form. It's another creation. And just like you would have found when you were first exploring your creative work and your creative voice, you had to upskill yourself. You had to really wrap your mind and expand the way you were thinking about your creativity, and really accepting the imperfections, and really falling a lot and making bad art, and just really finding yourself and finding mentors and finding leaders to follow, so that you can have some kind of guiding light as you are scrambling around, it feels like, in an ocean of doubt and options and lessons and all the things, right? And so I want you to realize that you are not alone. My intention for this series was not only to share all the things. I mean, obviously this is about launching my one-on-one private mentoring, and this is something that you can message me about, and I want to give you a taste of it. But more than that, whether or not you work with me, I hope that you get something valuable from this, and that you learn that there is a lot more to learn. There are things that you don't know, and that there are plenty of ways to find help to learn that, and definitely invest in all the help. And this is why I believe in coaching and all that kind of stuff, but also that you realize that you are capable, and that you are called, and you're feeling this nudge to go to that next chapter for a reason. And whether that reason is to create a whole new business to replace your job, or whether it just becomes a side hustle thing just for fun, for exploring, and to really stretch your intellect and your creativity, and to add more color and boldness into your life. Because I'm sure, as you would have found, as you explored your creativity, that you found more confidence and joy in finding your creative voice. And now as you step into creating this business, you would also expand your capacity and your ability to do so much more than you thought was possible, but that you know you are capable of it, and that you're called for a reason, and that to explore it is one of the things. This is the one thing today. The word of the day is commitment. And there's so much more to it than that. Before you start anything, before you want to expand or change, just like in any part of the creative process, when you want to start creating a new habit, or you want to create a family, or you want to create a piece of artwork, or when you want to create a business, you will always face this thing called resistance, right? It's the kind of, what do you call it? It's the reaction energy to this nudge, this kind of possibility and hopefulness, and this desire and decision to change and stretch and expand what you're doing and where you are. You will face that counter energy, and that Stephen Pressfield is someone I refer to a lot. He's his author who wrote the book The War of Art and a whole bunch of other creativity and art books for artists. And he refers it to as resistance with a capital R, as a separate entity and energy in itself. And that resistance comes up, and a lot of the time many people think it's a sign that you suck, you're not capable, and this is not for you. I've learned that resistance is actually a sign that you're on the right path, that you've actually chosen something that is really about expansion of not just your skill set and for fun and to see and to experiment, but actually an expansion of yourself and to really level up who you are. And it's a calling beyond just the usual shallow status quo things that we have in our lives, that you're being called to something greater. And that resistance is a lot bigger. A resistance is a lot smaller when it's just something that you don't care about as much, when your soul isn't caring about it as much. And so when you feel that resistance, and really that's fear and ourselves just trying to keep us safe, because expanding beyond what you're doing something new, it's scary. It's scary because it's unfamiliar and uncomfortable. And so the word for today, the one thing that you really need before you even start thinking about offering your work online and starting a business, anytime I'm talking to someone who's like, Brenda, I would love some advice on this, or how do I find more clients, or how do I price my artwork, or where can I sell my paintings, or how do I find clients? I've already said that. That's always like the first question. Or, I'm not sure that I'm ready, and I'm not sure that my body of work is really distinct enough, and whether or not it's professional enough. All these questions, I can give you the answers, I can give you my advice, I can give you my opinions, but unless I'm sure that you have this one thing, which is commitment, and I will explore what that means next. I've got notes on here, which is what I'm looking down at. Unless you have this level of commitment, I always checked and always gauge from the way they talk, or the way they ask me questions, or whether or not they actually ask the question. A lot of the time I find people, they want to ask the question, but they're too scared and they're not quite committed. And so they make statements instead. Oh, Brenda, your art is beautiful and I'm just not creative enough. Oh, I would love to be able to do that and sell my art, but I just don't have time. Or, I saw this lady and there was this market. It'd be great to be able to sell my work. It must be so much fun to do it like this, and I just, if only I just had the energy and if I was brave enough to start doing that. And there's no question. And when you don't ask a question, it's because you're assuming that the answer isn't for you, or because you don't dare. And the reason that is because you're not quite fully committed. And when I talk about commitment, I'm not saying that once you make a decision, that is it, you cannot change your mind, that you found one strategy, one path, this is what you're going to do, and that's it. On the one hand, yes, there's going to be so many paradoxes all the time, but you are creative, you are a muse, you will have the ability and the capacity to be able to hold two conflicting thoughts at the same time, because that's what we are. That's our job as creatives and as muses for the world. We hold both this physical world and we're bringing it into a tangible way to offer for the world, but at the same time we also travel into that intangible part, that connection to the divine, that kind of feeling and emotion and expression and empowering others and sharing a message and being a light. All those things, we are always the one standing in between these two worlds. So on the one hand, yes, absolutely. When I talk about commitment, I mean you definitely want to do this, then go for it. Go for it and you keep going until you get there. That's commitment. On the other hand, it doesn't mean you can't change your mind. It doesn't mean that if something falls over, like you're going on a path and something falls over and it blocks you, then you're like, oh, well, that's it, I guess. Commitment means you're going to have to change your path. You're going to have to find a different vehicle to travel on. You're going to have to find a different way of approaching it. You might have to find 5 different paths and go down the wrong way to realize which one was the correct way. That kind of commitment. And commitment means being willing, so many things. Being willing to change your mindset. That's what it is. From being a hobbyist to a pro. When you want to start this business as a creative business and you want to offering it to the world, and I know and I believe in taking baby steps because I've been there, I've been a mama, I've changed my direction and the way I looked at my business so many times, especially as I entered motherhood, and that really changed my identity and I had to change my business in that way. But I still felt that internal commitment of this is what I want to do. I want to make paintings and I want to offer it to the world. And that level of commitment, in the same way that you would approach your children, and when you become a new parent and a new mama and then you're exhausted even physically and mentally, there's a part of you is like, I'm going to keep going for my child, for the love of the child, for what you're being called. You chose to be a mother, all those kind of things. And so this mindset of going from hobby to pro, at the beginning when you were exploring your creative work and you really loved it and you did more of it and you found your kind of groove and you made more and then you started showing it to other people, you know, there was a bit of a hobby mindset. It's a bit of an amateur mindset. And the difference between that and a pro, and when I talk about a pro, I also got this from Stephen Pressfield. Definitely read his book, The War of Art. If you're working with me one-on-one, that is one of the things I would be expecting and asking you to do, and that is to read these books and to learn so much from books that has been written by people ahead of us, who's gone before us and who's explored concepts that you might not even have thought of. And yet when I read those books, it was a sense of recognition of my journey and where it is that I wanted to go. And it's this idea of being a pro, is that a pro shows up for their work, their creative work. They sit their ass down in the chair, they stand in front of the easel, they put their hands on the keyboard, even when you don't feel like it, even when you feel like you're not sure what you're supposed to do next, even if you're sitting there totally uninspired, even if you feel like you have no idea what you're doing and you don't belong there, and all that resistance and inner critic yapping at you in your head, and you feel like you're drowning in this ocean of doubt and options and overwhelm and all the things, a pro still shows up. And a pro is committed because they know that's their job. You are showing up for your creative work. And for you, as you're starting this business, even if you're dipping your toe into it, even if you just want to do it as a side hustle, you just want to explore what that option is, there is a level of commitment that is required for you to change your mindset, that you're going to keep going, that you are not going to let a little gust of wind kind of blow you off that path. You're going to learn to build wings on the way down. You're going to step off those cliffs. You're going to stretch beyond what's comfortable and familiar. You're going to ask for help, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. A hobbyist or an amateur is someone who waits for permission, who waits for an invitation, who waits for feelings to feel motivated and inspired to show up, who gets distracted by this pursuit of perfection before they can release it, or feels like they have to research and know every single step along the way before they can start. And here's the thing, you will find along the way, and this is why I believe in coaching so much, so that you have someone who anchors you, especially when you're running around in the dark, deep, dark forest. That is this new chapter for you of starting this business, that you have this anchor to remind you that it is part of the process, that clarity sometimes does not come until you take action, and only in the momentum and movement will you find the next step. And that sometimes you're not going to be able to see the bigger picture because you are still inside that forest, and you need someone to help you see that bigger picture, but at the same time to remind you that you already have the tools within you. You already have the experiences from whatever your past story is up to this point. You've already gained the practices and the tools and the experience that you need to find your way through, even if it just means your capability of looking for the help that you need, and to know what your limitations are, and that you need to ask for help and you need to learn more. Yes. And so being committed, that's what it means. It means being willing to be uncomfortable. That's what commitment means. It means being willing. This willingness to be uncomfortable is what's going to allow you to be open enough to learn all the things that you need to learn. It means you're going to invest the time, and not just the money, in a coach like me or in someone else or in courses, but also the time to sit there to learn the things that you need to learn, to do the work that you need to do the hard stuff that you feel like, why would I need to do all this stuff? Surely if I just make the artwork and post it on Instagram and all the clients will come, right? Sometimes that doesn't happen that way. There's a whole layer of foundations that has been set up by these artists that you follow, and you see like, oh, it's so easy for them, but you haven't seen the foundations that they've laid. You have not seen their dark nights of the soul when nothing was working, no one was liking, there were no comments and $0, and it felt like they were just talking to themselves in the dark. And that level of commitment that they had to do to wake up the next day and try again and to try again. And so part of this, before you start anything, whether or not it's starting the business or whether you just stumbled across this video and you just wanted to explore your creativity and you want to just start this new habit or create something new and different, and it's an expansion of who you are, who you're being, and your life, you're going to face this thing called resistance. And you need to ask yourself, are you willing to be uncomfortable, and are you committed? So, part of that commitment and being willing to be uncomfortable, investing that time and money and energy, because you'll find as we explore the next 5 days about becoming a money-making muse, is that you're starting a creative business, and a business requires, investment of not just time and money to buy supplies or whatever it is, software, sign up for things, but also of energy and attention. This is what I talk about in my Muse Mojo and stuff. I'm weaving my life as a mama to 2 kids under 6. She's turning 6 in a couple weeks actually. And as well as a toddler, with nap times and doing work in between that and drop off and lunch boxes and all the things, laundry. Oh my God, there's like a basket of laundry still waiting for me to fold the clothes, and weaving all of that and doing it in between. But that investment of time and energy and attention, like focused attention on this work, means prioritizing it because you're committed to this new chapter of exploring and expanding and upskilling and doing all that you need to do, and finding someone to keep you accountable, and being uncomfortable, meaning stretching and learning new things. And part of being uncomfortable means like saying no to things. Investing that time, energy, attention also means being willing to be uncomfortable, and being willing to be uncomfortable also means sacrificing things that you enjoy, things that give you pleasure, in order to make room to give that time, energy, and attention and money to this thing. And so that you can focus on what it is that you're building. Just like I use motherhood because that's what I have and what I've experienced, of how you had to give up a lot and you've had to be uncomfortable, especially like when you're at month 8 and 9 of your pregnancy, like super uncomfortable, or the sleep deprivation, or the giving up of your own personal space, or so even if you don't have kids, right? Whatever new thing, just like when you're learning something, some of the things that you might have to give up is this idea of practicing discipline and sacrifice. And I don't mean it in like a horrible way that means sacrificing your values, sacrificing things that are important to you, like your time with your family, but maybe it means sacrificing your Netflix time, or sacrificing some social meetups and things, so that you can spend that 2 hours learning what it is that you need to learn, or creating the work that you need to create, and making the plan so that you at least have some sort of strategic anchor to kind of work towards, whatever that looks like. Are you committed to this next chapter? Are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to invest and this discipline and this sacrifice? Sometimes it means you're going to have people who come to you and be like, oh, I don't think this is for you. I don't think you're good enough. Or don't you think it's a little unrealistic to be dreaming about this? Or aren't you going to be sacrificing too much time with your children? This is the one I hate the most. Aren't you going to be like, maybe you should just be happy where you are? And the thing is, yes, you are. You are happy and you're fully grateful for where you are. But at the same time, there is nothing wrong with this nudge, with this little spark of ambition, with this dream that keeps bugging you and nudging you, and it's getting a little louder and it keeps coming back up. because it's calling you for a reason. It's calling you to expand and to grow and to start this new thing, whatever it is. This creative business that you're going to start, it's going to bring you so much more than just the creative business and the clients and the customers and the ability to do creative work that you love and have it as part of your life. It also means you're going to be expanding your confidence and your courage and your ability to express yourself and your voice and your vision of who you are and what you're capable of. Does that make sense? Definitely comment below anytime that I say something that resonates with you or that reminds you of something, or even if it's just like, yes, this is what I struggle with. I would love to know what it is that you struggle with that you haven't thought of in your commitment to starting this creative business, in what is it that's been holding you back from offering your work to the world. And I bet you a lot of the time, yes, there's probably some things you don't know and skill sets you're not sure that you have and too many options and all of those things. But it will come down to this deep fear about whether or not you're committed and whether or not you're willing. And the reason you might not be quite willing or quite committed is because of this fear that maybe you're not good enough and that maybe you're not worthy enough, maybe you're not ready enough. And basically just this fear that, who are you to think that you can do this? And that's why this is the first thing I will be working on with you. If you were to sign up with me for private mentoring, it will be working on this, knowing and practicing the tools that you're going to need to remind you that you have this ambition and this dream for a reason, and that you are committed to this process and to exploring what it is that you need to explore in order to find your way forward to create this business. And that means embracing the uncomfortable and finding the discipline and all the things I just said about changing that mindset from being a hobbyist to being a pro. Right, and so part of that willingness to be uncomfortable, I have a whole list in my notes I'm checking here. I want to make sure I cover that before I explore this new idea, this new path we were talking about. Right, being committed means being willing to embrace the uncomfortable, to embrace the negative, to embrace this sense of imperfection, because that fear about whether or not you're good enough and whether or not you're worthy and whether or not you're ready, whether or not you are capable, that fear of basically just not being enough and being worthy is this worthiness issue. Is you're not going to be able to grow it by thinking it through. You're not going to be able to grow this sense of worthiness and that you are prepared and that you're ready unless you give yourself evidence of that. And you only give yourself evidence of that if you are committed to embrace the uncomfortable and taking the steps forward anyway. Seeing resistance for it is hearing all those inner critic yapping at you. Who are you to do that? What makes you think you are the one that can do this? You know, don't you have other things that you should be doing? Are you just saying you're really being ungrateful for your life? Surely there's plenty of things that you should be grateful for and joyous about, and plenty of other things that you could be working on. All those voices yapping at you. I feel it. I know it. If you totally resonate, definitely type in the comments below if you're willing to share, or message me if you feel like you want it to be private, the things that you tell yourself, or you hear that voice telling you why you're not capable and why you're not good enough, and all the things that it's really that heart of it, that sense of unworthiness that is keeping you back and not being able to help you be committed. And I find that's why I like using that word commitment and willingness, because sometimes you can still feel the fear, but because of your commitment, you take that step forward anyway. And even when you feel the fear, but if you can be willing to embrace the uncomfortable and be willing to explore and experiment, just like I said at the very beginning, commitment doesn't mean you can't change your mind. I'm just asking you to be committed to this process, even just committed to these 5 days to watching this and learning what you can and practicing this daily, asking yourself, am I willing to be a little bit uncomfortable? Am I willing to sacrifice for a time, not for forever, but for a time, my Netflix, my social going out, my, wasting time scrolling on social media, so that I'm actually being intentional about learning and practicing, writing and putting myself out there, all the things about building my courage and building up this sense of worthiness, because you've been willing to be uncomfortable and willing to stretch yourself and willing to embrace the negatives. You will take those steps, and those mini steps is what's going to give you a little seed, a little spark of courage, a little spark of confidence that, hey, I am still capable, still feeling all the things, still hearing all the reasons why you shouldn't and you suck and you're not capable, still feeling like maybe you're not ready and you're not good enough, all those things, and still stepping forward anyway because of your commitment, because of your willingness. And so embracing the negatives means it isn't about waiting until you feel good enough. That's what a hobbyist will do. That's what an amateur will do. Waiting until you feel inspired or that you're fully ready and that you have 100% clarity on the 1,000 steps you're going to need to take to get to your destination that you're going for. Being, really sure and guaranteed. That's what we're waiting for. We want guaranteed because we don't want failure. We're scared that we're not capable. And sometimes we're just scared of what if it turns out everyone's going to turn around and be like, who are you to do that? And turn around and find out that, no, actually, you're a fraud. You are an amateur. You're not a pro at all. Embracing the negatives means just like if you were to go on a diet, it's really just embracing the negative, the feeling of being uncomfortable and hungry, just going a little hungry. If you need to exercise more, really it's about embracing that, being willing to embrace that feeling of and a little bit of pain and moving your body even if you don't feel like it, right? Like we know this about physical health, and it's starting a whole new lifestyle that is healthier and better for us and expanding our ability to, not expanding our waistline, but like expanding our health and our vibrancy and our ability to show up physically as well as mentally and emotionally, right? And it's the same when you're starting a business and you're building this new chapter for yourself as not only as a creative and as an artist, but as a creative business, as a business lady, as a boss, as an entrepreneur. Like you're really trying to stretch your mind and of who you are and your perspective of who you are into this new title, this new hat that you're putting on. Yes, and I've got here, embracing the negatives, being willing to be uncomfortable, is embracing this, knowing that you might have to be humiliated and feel embarrassed because you don't know and you did the wrong thing and you fell on your face and you tried this thing and it didn't quite work. And really it's about being okay with that, because if you can change that story, it means you are learning to change your story. You probably had to learn about your limitations. You probably had to learn to be open to accept help. And sometimes our ego and our sense of we can totally do it ourselves, because I'm totally there. Like I figured I could just figure it out on my own because that's what I do, and no one will see me be humiliated, and no one will see me fall on my face, and no one will see how I totally embarrassed myself. But here's the thing, it meant then I wasn't putting myself out there and I wasn't being seen, and then I was complaining about not being seen and no one sees me and I no one can find me. And so that sense of embarrassment and humiliation, I totally understand that and I totally feel that. But also it meant being open and learning that I had to ask for help, and that I had to ask, I had to reach out, I had to be vulnerable. And being vulnerable and open and asking for that is the same way that you're going to need to be when you start this creative business. As a creative, you're not just selling some widget here and there or some kind of mass-produced thing that some machine made. You're selling your creative work, and that requires a little essence of vulnerability and being open, because that's what you're doing. You're offering not only like your soul calling. I'm not saying that you are in the art. I don't necessarily believe that. Although for a lot of people, and it's like a stereotype, oh, it must be so scary to like offer your heart and soul in this painting. I've learned, and we'll be talking about this in the habits day, which is day 3, about really distancing and detaching yourself from that. But it's still a little vulnerable to be offering this work that you've made. When you're connecting with clients and you're designing a logo, there will always be, when I do design work, there's always this element of what if they don't like it? What happens if I did it wrong? And it's still a little vulnerable, and you have to be open to feedback, to showing your art, to showing up, oh my goodness, showing up day in, day out, even when there's no evidence to show you, to give you a sign that you're on the right path, right? That it's going to require being vulnerable and open means having a little faith in this nudge, in this commitment to creating and building this business, of laying the foundation. This is why I'm a big believer of coaching and why I'm offering private mentoring. I'll share more about what's involved with that if you ever want to work with me, which is what this whole series is about. And but this is what I wanted to share all the things that I know I'm going to be sharing, but obviously one-on-one is all personalized and it's going to give you the accountability, and we work through what it is that you need to work through and meeting you where you are at. But I knew there was going to be similar themes, and this was originally going to be just like a course, but I'm like, no, I need to offer it as a one-on-one. This is what felt right, and it meant I can really walk with my clients through each step. But then it just means I have this live stream series that you're on right now that you're going to watch for free, but it's actually going to be worth so much more, and I might take it. It will be taken down. It's going to be up for a limited time, so definitely sign up and register for the series so that you get certain links if you missed the replays, and definitely watch them through, because once it's taken down, it will just be exclusive access for my clients only. But this is what I'll be working through, asking them, making sure, keeping them accountable about embracing the negatives. And part of that is being vulnerable, and part of that is being willing to ask for help. And that's why I believe in coaching, because sometimes it's hard to remember. It's so easy to forget when you're showing up day in, day out, and it's just not quite clicking yet. You're still building, right? Just like the little toddler who had to learn, or not toddler, the little baby that had to learn how to walk and keeps falling on their ass day in, day out, and there's no evidence to prove that they're going to be capable of walking. And yet we don't like go, oh, you know what? I think clearly it's a sign that you shouldn't bother. Clearly it's a sign that you're just not capable. And that, what else is there? I mean, there are other ways you could move around, and you can, sit in a chair and you can ask for help and someone can carry you. No, they keep showing up day in, day out. You're building the muscles and the muscle memory. You're building up the skill set. You're building up the resilience and learning each day. You're not starting from scratch each day. You're learning the lessons from the previous day, provided that you're committed and willing to be uncomfortable and committed to this process of growing and expanding and stretching your abilities and stretching your capacity and really putting yourself out there, which is what's involved, and which is why I'm hoping that you're showing up to these 5 days to learn from me. And the other thing, last thing about feeling stupid, I think I mentioned this earlier, is sometimes we don't want to ask for help because we figure we'll figure out along the way, and it feels like you're asking stupid questions. There are no stupid questions, because here's the thing, at the very beginning is what I said. Those who asked the questions, even if it felt like a stupid question, it's not, because I admire that commitment and that resilience and that willingness to be uncomfortable, because it means that they are open to learning something new, to seeing a new perspective, to ask for help. And those people I know are gonna go so much further and actually take action and actually get stuff done and actually do something more than where they are, than those who are just making statements and complaining and whining about it and not willing to ask the question. Because when you're not willing to ask a question because you assume it's going to be not for you, then it's not going to be for you, because you didn't even try. And so this is about becoming more, becoming a new person, becoming who you know you're supposed to be. Just like that baby was not meant to be on its butt and lying down all the time. Who they're meant to be is someone who's a walking, thriving, vibrant adult. That's what they're growing into be. And so it doesn't mean they're becoming something different. They're becoming more of who they're supposed to become. And this is what you are. If you're being nudged to call and to create this business and to really offer your art to the world, you're becoming more who you are supposed to become. And that requires stretching and realizing that you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, and that you have to learn new things and see things in a different way. And you might have to try old things that you were like, oh, for sure, that's not going to work for me. And actually go, well, actually, is that still true? right? Like I was sure, no, I can't show it on live streams and on video because like I'm really awkward and I don't like people and I'm just like, don't like, you know, being around, like I'm an introvert and I'm not like really proper and like, you know, being like presenting and I was like so sure, but I had to really revisit that. And the only reason I could do that was because I was working with a coach who was like, no, Brenda, I can see that you are capable of more than what you're currently doing and you need to show up, right? That's what working with someone and asking for help is. Sometimes it means asking for someone to be able to remind you of the bigger vision that you had when in your highest self, when you're at your best self, when you are at your most hopeful and optimistic and you're dreaming and you're allowing yourself and giving yourself that permission, that moment you're seeing this bigger picture, you're seeing the possibilities, you're going to explore this new idea of like offering your art to the world. You know, someone said, oh wow, that's beautiful, I think you should sell it, and that person probably has no idea what's involved with that and the commitment involved in that and the commitment within yourself and that devotion within yourself to be willing to embrace the uncomfortable and the negatives, right? But maybe they were just there to give you that spark that you needed to go, I did think that, but I wasn't sure. So then I'm here now and you're here now and you found yourself here now. Are you willing? Are you committed? Are you willing to become something more, to become more of yourself, to acknowledge your limits and have the patience to change, to also release and surrender all the baggage and all the bad habits of old ways of thinking and think new ways of thinking, and to invest in that help and to ask that help. That's right, to ask someone to hold and remember that vision for you. Because like before I start my one-on-one mentoring, we'll be having our launch call where we're going to really sit down and see that bigger vision and tap into that bigger vision you have and that highest best self that you have and that level of hopefulness and optimisticness and sense of possibility, and really see that. And then my job as your mentor, as your Muse mentor, is to hold that for you and to remind you of that and to remind you that you're capable of holding it. And when you get lost in the forest and you're calling out, and this is what Voxer messages are for, which is like a walkie-talkie app, all my one-on-one mentoring clients will have access to me for that. Sometimes you just need to send out a message and be like, help, SOS, I'm feeling X, Y, and Z and I can't see where I'm going and I can't remember why I'm doing this and why am I putting myself out there and being uncomfortable, and it's really uncomfortable. And then I will remind you and connect you back to what it is that you're trying to become and who it is that you are. And that's a creative and a muse, and you're doers, we're not just dreamers. And that you are remembering that there's always more to learn, and that it is as much in the process and the journey that you're getting so much from that, as well as the outcome that you're going to get at the destination, whatever that is. And that destination kind of keeps going because life is an adventure and a journey, and it doesn't end until it ends. And so yeah, it gets better. I'm just checking my notes down here. Making it easier to learn. Yes. Always more to learn, and that you will learn and you will get better. And then as you get better, you will learn that there's more to learn and that you will improve, and that sometimes there are easier ways to learn than doing it on your own and falling on your face 1,000 times. Sometimes you just have to like have someone ahead of you who's like, oh, watch out for that pothole. It is so not worth falling in there. It was unnecessary to fall in there. So that's day one, commitment. Are you committed to this thing? Are you willing to be uncomfortable and to embrace the negative feelings, the being a little hungry, to go without it for a little bit, to really practice this level of discipline? And the things that I'll be exploring with my one-on-one mentoring. All right. This is what we're here for. This is what I'm here for. I am sharing all these things because I know these are the first steps that you need to have to the fun and the funds that you're going to need for your creative business. Whether you want to build this like business to be your lifestyle, to be your life, or whether it's going to be a side hustle so that you can fund your art supplies addiction so you can make more art, whatever that is, you're still creating a creative business. And that requires a different way of thinking, a different way of doing, and you're creating a whole different kind of art, a different kind of creative work. work, which is the creative business. And that requires you to think in a different way and expand your mind and your perspective of who you are. And this is where marketing and sales skills come in, and strategy and social media and personal branding. And this is why I'm covering all these things, because I'm also launching my one-on-one private mentoring, which is First 5. Meaning I help you lay the foundations so that you can find your first 5 dream, because we want dream, clients, customers, or collectors online. And I'm love using this first 5 idea because I know, especially, and this is from my experience, like your first couple of sales is like from to your mom or to a friend, or you know, someone who knows you, and you were just kind of exploring and getting your feet wet. But once you get to your first 5, that's when you're really doing this creative business. This is when you start learning about logistics, and you need to work that out, and do you have systems in place, and how do you scale this thing? And this is when I know I made the mistake of then really, because I'm a dreamer and I'm a big visionary and I'm really good at that, seeing the bigger vision, I got really lost in like, scaling and big business and the systems and the logistics and all the things. I need to have the perfect website, I need to have the perfect shopping cart, I need to have the perfect payment system and automations of email marketing and PR and press and branded packaging, and when you're first starting, you're going to make sure you lay the foundations. And I learned that because I had to go back and lay the foundations as I was building the stuff on top, and that wasn't an unnecessary pothole for you to do. And also I know that I'm the kind of crazy that's willing to build my wings on the way down, that I jumped off that cliff, right? I'm building my wings on the way down. But I know that there are many creatives out there who are already ready to step forward and start offering their creative work for the world, but they're getting distracted like me on other things that are unnecessary, or they're just getting distracted by their fears and their doubts and that resistance when they hadn't got this one thing, which is why the first thing I wanted to share today in this 5-day series was about this one thing, about being committed and being willing to be uncomfortable and all the things that involves in that. And so with my one-on-one mentoring, the first 5, that's what it's called, first 5, laying the foundations to finding your first 5 dream customers, clients, and collectors online. It's 8 weeks with me. We help lay the foundations. These are the topics that we will be covering. You can find, this is what I was supposed to do. I will put in the link of what's happening of first 5. You can read more about it. Let me see. And I put it here. Because you need to apply. It's one-on-one. It's 8 weeks with me, which means 8 calls. We will get on a call. We're talking face-to-face like this on Zoom or Skype, whatever works for us. But that starts November 1st, so that we can like really end this year with a bang and really lay your foundation, so that the next year you can really go out there and really launch your stuff and really get into a flow of things. Sorry, I'm just burping my coffee. And but we start our Voxer messaging and our launch call as soon as you sign up. And so the sooner you sign up, the sooner we can discuss. And Voxer is like a messaging app where we can talk to each other. I'm basically like in your pocket for those quick little check-ins and questions and bits of help, because I know sometimes just showing up live, like on a call, on a one-on-one call, sometimes it's like a lot, and it can feel really high pressure, and you have to like present, or I don't know, whatever it is. I like it for that kind of weekly check-in. It's being a weekly check-in, not just of like, what have you done so far, what are we building, all the logistic things of things, the practical side of things, but also like checking in on mindset and where you are. And basically I'm there to springboard and strategize and work with you in a way that you're going to need as a creative business owner. Like I'm like your CEO spring mirror to like, what's that, springboard, like to really what's that word, I can't work out the word, but like to talk through ideas and to really kind of have someone to discuss with, because I know how lonely it is when you're trying to figure it out on your own. Your family doesn't understand, your friends don't understand, and you haven't really tapped into that community yet. And that's also why, if you're a first 5 mentoring client with me, you have 6 months access to my Muse Mojo community. It is a village of creators. You have access to then all my other creative resources in there. There's my book about resistance, my Lies of Resistance booklet that you can access and read in there. And I also show up in there every week on all kinds of stuff and sharing behind the scenes of things. And so you'll need that and have that kind of community, and to realize that you're not alone in these ambitions and that there are other creators out there who also have similar ambitions to you. And then I give you access to me in that way. But you also have that Voxer messaging, and that's 8 weeks together, 8 calls. And we basically, every week we have these topics that we cover. And the very first thing that we're going to be talking about is working out your tools for that. And so while I get myself together, okay, let me put that in the comment. So you can learn more about first 5 in the comment below, which I'm going to pin. If I can do that now. Okay, and so you can learn more about that, read it through. There are but topics that we can cover. We meet, it's obviously all personalized for you if you're a private client, because we have to work with where you're at, where your journey's at, what it is that you need most help with. And you'll be amazed at what you can achieve in 8 weeks together when you're not doing it alone. And going through each of these topics kind of keeps you in line. There's the distractions, but also in between those calls, we have that Voxer access as well. So you can just message me, feedback. You can send me screenshots. You can send me your thoughts. You can send me what you're freaking out about, what your inner voice is saying. And then we can work through and dig through what the fears are. And I can keep you accountable and help you work out your tools of mindset and all those things, as well as sharing the apps I use and all that kind of stuff. And so, pin, comment, there you go. Right, pin, comment, I got confused there. Okay, so here are some tools that help me stay committed and remind me of what it is that I'm willing to do, to embrace not only the uncomfortable and the negative feelings, and not waiting for that, but it reminds me of what I'm capable of, and to stay connected to that calling and that vision and that goal, what it is that I'm committed to. And so the first one is definitely journaling. Journaling is going to be a really big one. Journaling, I think of it as writing and having a meeting and having a dialogue with my inner self, with God, with my highest best self, when I'm at my best, most optimistic and hopeful and most connected to the bigger vision and knows what I'm capable of, not when I'm feeling shitty and grumpy and impatient and just not at my best. I don't want to be working with her. I want to be working with myself when I'm at my best. I'm feeling vibrant and energetic and capable and confident and full of courage and this was the other word I wanted to give to you today. Being curious, to use that sense of curiosity that brings an element of fun in, and that element of fun also allows you to experiment and to explore and to try things that might feel like it's beyond your capability and your capacity. But that curiosity is the reason you got into this creative work in the first place, and that curiosity is why you're showing up to this video in the first place. And I hope you got great insight and value and reminders, inspired reminders for you about what you need to hear today in exploring this new chapter about building a creative business. And that sense of curiosity, that's what the journaling can do. You explore and you're asking yourself, and I'll be giving you journaling prompts if that's what you need from me in our private mentoring time, about exploring what is this fear coming from, where is this vision going, exploring new ideas and tapping into within and finding that inspiration when you're not feeling it, and working out why you're not feeling it and working out what patterns are showing up. And so I look at journaling as my time. It's like a meeting with my higher self, a meeting with God, a meeting with my, whatever your spirituality is, because obviously there's an infusion of that, because we're not just humans doing human things. It's a creative, you're bringing intangible things to life into this tangible world. And so journaling is one of the ways to stay committed. Sometimes I'm just writing out in list form what it is I'm working towards. It is sometimes it's my to-do list, although I have a separate planner for that now, so that my journaling is purely like a dialogue with my inner self, of reminders, of encouraging notes, or also just like tough love, ass kicking accountability. And I might not read it back ever again. Sometimes, most of the time I don't. Sometimes I go back and be like, oh, I remember that. I remember that feeling. And sometimes it's a way of writing. And when it's handwriting, it gives you this connection of heart, mind into your hands, of being able to articulate thoughts that sometimes feel so overwhelming and so overpowering in your mind, these fears and voices like talking at you. But once you're trying to articulate it down, you can see it for what it is, and taking that time helps you articulate what the true fear is, and then you can address it. And so journaling is a big part of that, and it's a big tool that I use. And sometimes your journaling might be writing your notes and typing in it when I'm fully angry and I need to like express and unleash all that fear and negativity and anger and resentment and bitterness and frustration, and really just this sense of forgetting the worthiness aspect and my willingness aspect and my commitment aspect. And so typing it could be your way of doing it, but this sense of journaling is a way of connecting with your higher self. And the second one about mindset work sometimes is to make sure you practice whatever it is that you need. And this is where I can't give you a specific formula, because there are no formulas. There's only your secret recipe, just like I have my secret recipe, and I'm still working out half my secret recipe because my goals change and evolve and grow with me. And because social media and being online and being a personal brand online, as that's what creators need to be nowadays, really that's what we've always been for successful independent artists who are not depending on somebody else, because we don't want to depend on anybody else. We want to create the work that we love and connect to dream clients that we love, and do the work that not only we love but also helps and gives so much joy and transformation to our dream clients and customers and collectors. And so the second one is to really practice what it is that you need to stay connected and clear and connected to the divine. So there's the journaling aspect, which is this conversation part, but this part is about feeling connected. And so a lot of the time it might be physical, like actual bodies, because we are actual bodies. With the spiritual aspect of it, the journaling part is this kind of thinking spiritual aspect of it, but the second one is this physical connection. And so sometimes it means going for long walks so that you can have the space to clear your mind. And that sense of walking also, you sweat it out and all that kind of stuff, sweat out all the frustration and all the things, but also it keeps the creativity juices flowing. It keeps that sense of connection flowing. It connects you back to the earth. It grounds you, all that physical aspect. But also it might look like having baths. And I know I feel the most clear if I have a really intentional shower, not just like a quick one because the kids are like harassing me in the shower and I can't be left alone, but it's a priority for me to like have those intentional showers. And sometimes it is only 5 minutes, but being intentionally meditative in there so that I can clear all the junk and all the overthinking. And it feels different to my journaling because it's just intentionally clearing out and trying to find clarity on being connected to my commitment, to my goals, to my vision, to being present before my journaling even. And so this sense of clearing out and being connected, this might mean meditation for you. This might mean going and doing hot yoga to really clear it out. This might mean, I don't know what it looks like for you to stay, like, what is it that you need to feel really connected, not just to your creative work, because you would have hopefully practiced this and be pretty good at that before you started exploring this idea of offering your work to the world. But that feeling of tapping into flow, of connected to that space where you feel like, yes, I can start making now and I feel really inspired, or even when you're not and you're sitting down and you're doing it, but you tap into it very quickly. What is it that you need then now for this new chapter? Because the work that you're going to be creating, I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow and day 3 especially, about the things that you're going to be creating beyond just the work that you're going to create. Because as a creative business, you're going to have to be creating marketing plans, creating content for all of that, connecting with those clients and customers. You've got to create art in a sense that connects with them. And so that's another creative space. And so knowing what that is for you, what flow looks like for you, and what keeps you clear of all the junk, all the distractions, all the thinking of the duties and the to-do list, and you need to get to that, and the laundry, and whatever it is to do that. So sometimes that might, for you, it might look like having one day to like fully clean the house, and that sense of busyness with your hands keeps your mind clear. Does that make sense? And so those 2 things, I hope that's helpful to help get your brain storming happening, to find what it is that works for you. And sometimes you might not know what really works for you until you try it for a couple of weeks. And that is what I'll be working with my one-on-one mentoring clients with, of going, let's picking 1 or 2 and making it a habit and making it a priority and making it a part of your process in creating this business, of laying the foundations, of doing your creative work, even amongst all the other stuff that you need to be doing. Like I have to do this, weaving it with my mamahood and cleaning and all the things. I totally understand that. I totally understand the juggle, but if you're committed and you're willing to be uncomfortable, I like to look at it as I want a fulfilling life. And that sometimes means it's a life that is full and filled up. And that's where the fulfillment comes from, because I'm not willing to sacrifice my quality time and my connection with my children. I'm not willing to sacrifice this sense of connection and relationships. But at the same time, I'm not willing to sacrifice my connection to my spirituality and my relationship with God, which all feeds into my creativity. And I know that they all weave together, because when I'm fully present to my creative work and to my creative business, it feeds my ability to show up and be present and be the best mama and then be the best wife, and also infusing that sense of fun and play into it as well helps me keep that cycle going. So even though it looks very full, and I do have my days of overwhelm, and I totally get that, and this is why I believe in coaching and I want to offer that help and give back in that way, you can do it. You will find your way. You will find your secret recipe, and asking for that help and finding your anchors in order to do that is how you're going to be able to weave all of that together. All right. That is it for today. Day 1. I will see you tomorrow for, I want to make sure I'm reading it correctly, is what you need to be clear about before you start selling your art online. This is the next question I usually ask. Like the first one I never ask as a question. I can always just gauge by whether or not they actually asked a question. So when people ask me advice, like how do I price something? How do I find clients? All those kind of things. Your answers will be so much easier to find once you're clear about these things. The who, what, where, when, why, of that. So I will see you in day 2 of that tomorrow. Definitely register below. Well, you can check it out. I will actually put it now. To register, if you want to register for this series so that you can catch the replays. If you can't be there for every single one of the 5 days, I totally get that. This is how we weave it all. I watch a lot of replays. If you're watching a replay and you watch it all this way, good on you. Make sure you comment below, as always, with all my videos, #YayReplay, but also any of your notes, any of the insights, anything that resonated, anything that came up for you that you want to share, not only for me and to help me boost these videos. If you have a friend who you know has been looking to step up and start selling their work for the world, I would love for you to share this video series with them. But for yourself as well, because when you make that tiny little action of typing in that comment, you're fully engaging to that moment, that insight that you have, that spark, that was inspiration, giving you ideas, giving you a clue to what it is that your next step is. This is when we talk about clarity, which we'll be talking about in day 2. These are the little clues. Pay attention to it, acknowledge it, and type it into the comments below. because I know that's how I've learned. Anytime I've just been scrolling and not commenting at all, I haven't been fully engaged, and I did not get as much as I did in the ones where I was intentional about commenting and picking up and remembering. Anytime I comment, even if it was the quote that person said, and it just sank deeper into my mind. And so I want that for you. All right. And I've put in the link as well in the comments below to sign up for the series. The link to sign up, Become a Money Making Muse. If you sign up, there it is, it just showed up. You sign up, I will send you the links to the replays in your email, and therefore you have access to that as well. And then I'll be giving you like last warnings before I take it down at the end of the month, this video series, so that it will be for exclusive use only for my clients. So you know it's going to be amazing value, because I'll be charging money for this series, and people pay me money for this to learn from me. And I would love for you to write down below. I don't have any homework for you today. There will be homework for the other days, but definitely comment below. Are you committed? Are you willing? What is one small thing? It doesn't have to be huge unless you want to, that you are going to practice in terms of discipline or sacrifice in order to make room to invest the time, money, energy, and attention to creating this business. And that might mean you're going to be taking the time to watch these videos all the way through and implementing the homework. It might mean finally starting up that journaling practice. It might mean my voice is slowly losing, and so that's a sign I need to finish. It might mean being intentional about getting massages, if that's how you stay clear. Let me know in the comments below. And also, what is the one thing that you struggle with when it comes to really starting and building this creative business? And I know that it's going to be an element of commitment and willingness in there, but I would love to know what it is. Just write it down. Write down that fear voice. Write down that question. Write down that inner critic statement that you tell yourself about why you haven't started yet. I would love to know. And I will see you guys tomorrow for day 2. Bye.